All right, good afternoon. Apologies, I had to push this back. I had a meeting previously that overran, so I had to push it back from 1 to 1:30. But thank you for joining me. Talk a little bit about the interest rate, inflation rate increasing again to another record high that we haven't seen for a very, very long time, 10.1%. I want to talk a little bit about monetary policy as well. Why haven't the interest rate hikes that we've seen for the past 7 months worked? What's driving the increase in inflation number from where it was last month to 10.1 right now? And also, how do you find out what your personal inflation rate is? So, your household, what's the number for you realistically? I'll take you through a tool, which I'll also link as well below. So hopefully you'll find this useful. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. If you can't, please let me know in the comments. I will also take maybe a couple of questions if you do have them as well. But let's just get stuck in first and foremost with what's going on. Hey Megs, how are you? Welcome. With what's going on at the moment. So this is the news today. Inflation hits 10.1%. Now let's have a look and see what's actually driving this in the news. So this is the BBC, and essentially they're saying here that the biggest increase came from bread and cereals, dairy, meat, and vegetables, with a rising cost of food leading to record increases for restaurants, hotel prices, and pushing up the cost of takeaways. So the biggest component to the increase in inflation that we've seen this month or over the last 30 days is food prices. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, actually, I posted the story where I had a night over to do Lorraine yesterday. And the cheapest thing on the hotel menu for room service, which was a club sandwich and a drink, ended up costing me £25. And I kind of referenced in that stories that that's just inflation for you. But it is pretty crazy. It is pretty crazy. But we're seeing that the main driver for this new cost is obviously food and drink. Now, there are a couple of things that are worthwhile mentioning, which leads us to kind of this next question, right? So, monetary policy, is it a monetary policy failure? We've seen seven or so increases to the bank rate this year so far. And each time the expectation has been that it will combat inflation and bring down our inflation numbers. Now, the closest, I guess, comparison that you could probably have in this conversation is over in the States. In the States, they've also increased their interest rates, their Fed rate, right? But they've seen a reduction in their inflation. And the reason why they've seen a reduction in inflation and we haven't is because, and I've said this before on the channel, our problem is slightly more acute and different to them. We're dealing with a supply chain issue. We have a shortage of supply, particularly when it comes to energy. And we have some issues, obviously, with food, getting it over here, fuel costs, that kind of stuff. I would imagine fuel cost and actually delivering it, getting it over here is what's pushed this number up quite significantly. And there are lots of warnings around the fact that, the last time Andrew Bailey spoke, he warned that we're looking at inflation at 13% by the end of the year. And people are saying that he is grossly underestimating what inflation is actually going to be like in October, which is literally only a couple of months away, once the new energy prices get kicked in with that increase of 78%. People are saying it's going to be more than 13%, but we're at 10 right now. And we're in double digits for the first time in a very, very, very long time. So I think monetary policy failure, possibly. I mean, but what can the Bank of England do? I mean, that's the question, but they are the experts, they should know. The whole idea of increasing your interest rates is the fact that it will encourage people to save money and stop spending money. But the reality is the things that we need to spend money on cost us more money. And because interest rates are going up as well, you're getting a squeeze on people who have mortgages, for example, who aren't maybe fixed. So disposable income is being squeezed even further, and that exacerbates the whole problem even further. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the Bank of England. I was looking around at some stuff earlier today, looking at the Bank of England forecast for inflation, interest rates, where they think it's going to be going, and what they're expecting to, I guess, do to combat this. Do a separate video on that. But at the moment, this is where we are. But back to the most important question for this session right here, and that is, how do you work out what your own personal inflation rate is? So is 10.1% true to you? So true to your pocket in your household? Let's find out. There is a tool that BBC have come up with, and I did this myself. So I'm going to reveal to you what my personal inflation rate is. But you can actually just go ahead and do this. I will link this, by the way, in the notes after we finish this live. So this is on BBC. And if you just click start here, it's going to ask you a number of questions. So if you are kind of like repaying a mortgage, if you're renting, or if you're doing both, or you're not paying mortgage or rent, you will click that which is appropriate to you. So I'm paying a mortgage, so repaying right there, and hit enter your household income, and the calculator will show you what you do there. So, I mean, look, if you just use show average spend on here, you go next, and then you just pop in what it is that you spend roughly per month. So if I just fill in B4, what have I just done there? If I just, sorry, mate, that's better. I'm just going to pop in some numbers here. 400. Let's just say I've got 518 here. Energy bills, diesel. I drive electric, obviously, so but I'm going to put in here because my partner does. She's got a petrol. Eating out, you would put in your numbers here. Let's say 150, right? Child costs. I don't have any children, but if you had childcare costs, and let's just say £200 a month, holidays, you could allocate some money to that. You could also allocate some money to this as well. So I'm just going to go here, I don't know, 150. And the key thing here is to put in the numbers that work for you, or your average numbers, and do it that way. And let's just say, I don't know, put maybe 50 quid in here, right? Again, this is per month. And what this will do is when you go next, it will tell you what your personal inflation number is. So I think this will be a useful tool, because if you're seeing, 10.1%, that is quite an alarming number. But if you're able to do this, and you do this with a relative amount of accuracy, you'll get to know exactly what your personal increase is. Now it says here, estimated increase in my monthly costs is about £286 based on the information that I've actually put in. And it actually gives you a comparison as well in terms of the UK rate inflation and yours. Most people will be tracking it, but it also then does break down where those increases are coming from. So, for example, for me here, in this example, based on the information I put in here, energy bills have gone up £66, food and drink £44, 13 cents. So you'll be able to have a look at all of this and just break down from a personal point of view. Now, how would I use this if you're trying to, I guess, plan your finances? I would look at it based on the categories. So, for example, if petrol cost, diesel cost is one of your biggest increases, you will probably know that already. But it will kind of get you thinking about, do you use some of the fuel comparison apps, for example, to try and find the best fuel deals or fuel prices around near you? You'll probably have to forward plan for that kind of stuff. Leaving a little bit early, driving a little bit slower, all that kind of practical stuff, right? Maybe even boring, but I think this could be a really good tool that you could stand up against your budget and the reality of what you're facing at the moment if you're trying to kind of streamline your finances at this point in time. But again, I will literally link this in the show notes, well, in the comments once we finish this live. But yeah, I thought that would be interesting. Overall, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with inflation moving forward. I'm going to be surprised if we see a significant drop in this. I mean, looking at some of the forecasts from the Bank of England, I still think they're being very optimistic, thinking that inflation could come back to 2% by 2024. I mean, something drastic would really have to happen for that to be a reality. But at the end of the day, you would hope that the guys at the Bank of England are equipped to make these decisions, and they're making informed decisions. The energy price increase in October is going to be the biggest shock to people. I recently did a video which will come out next Tuesday asking people what they thought about the cost of living crisis and how it's impacting them. And it was really interesting kind of hearing people's responses and the things that they've actually done. That video will be out on Tuesday, by the way. So go check that out. And I might do a little bit more of that because I actually enjoyed it and found it very, very interesting to hear the general public's thoughts on this. But I think it's safe to say we're in for a bit of a rough ride over the next few months, heading into winter and heading into next year for sure. Just as a word of warning, I was on Lorraine yesterday morning. We were talking about some of the scams that are going around at the moment. I don't know whether you know this or not, but there are off-gen scams at the moment where people are texting you, WhatsApping you, and asking you to contact them so that they can apply the £400 discount that was announced recently to help people with the energy bills between October and March next year. If you did receive a text message, or if you do, or you know someone who does, you don't have to do anything at all to get the £400 discount that was announced earlier. So anyone asking you for personal information, completely ignore them. It's automatically applied to your electric or gas account. If you're on prepaid meters, it will automatically be added to your prepaid meter. You don't have to do anything. And please be careful. There are lots of these going around. There's the off-gen scam. There's a water scam where people are actually knocking on doors saying that they're from the water board, again, trying to get hold of personal information. There's also a telephone scam going on at the moment where they pretend to be from your network, saying we've added this service, you need to confirm some details and all that kind of stuff. Again, they're fishing for your personal data, payment details, that kind of stuff, so they can go off and do nefarious things. Clearly, there's going to be more of this because people are finding it difficult with where we are right now. So I said it on the rain yesterday. If you're in doubt, speak directly or contact the companies directly to verify. A lot of the time, you'll find that actually, when you've been getting text messages, it's all just bogus. So please stay as safe as you possibly can. I appreciate you. I'm going to be off from Friday for a week. So there is a video that will be scheduled for Tuesday, which I'm really looking forward to. But you probably won't be hearing from me on a live session for the next week. It's the first holiday I'm going to have this year. So I'm looking forward to actually downing tools and doing nothing. But guys, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I will catch you later on.